up, everyone? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast brought to you by St. Xavier University. We are back with another episode with 𝗏cie𝗰𝗶 𝗟𝗏. I am Ruthie Polinsky, and we teased this in our last episode earlier this week as we kind of broke down the Super Bowl, and now we're going to sort of localize it a bit as to what players that played in the Super Bowl could potentially be targets for the Bears this offseason. So let's break it down, because I think let's start with the offensive linemen, because there's a number of them on both teams, both the Chiefs and the Eagles, that are set to hit free agency at this moment. So let me talk to 𝗏cie𝗰𝗶, you first. Let's kind of start with, should we go team by team? Let's do Eagles first.
Okay.
How would you prioritize sort of the Bears' needs and whether or not there is a player on the Eagles who you think the Bears should go after big time?
There's actually a huge fit here, Ruthie. You set this up so perfectly. So thank you very much. So for me, the big needs obviously are in the interior of the offensive line. I mean, guard, center, guard. The Bears could honestly have 3 new starters right there. And on the Eagles, there was a guy who played pretty well all year after a rough start to his career, who could really be part of the next iteration, the new vision of the Bears offensive line, Mekhi Becton. During Ryan Poles, the start of his tenure really leaned towards smaller, athletic interior linemen who could move, and pull in zone schemes and get to the second level, et cetera, et cetera. It didn't really work out for a variety of reasons. Guys got hurt, so we couldn't really get to see what they do. Guys like Ryan Bates, even Lucas Patrick, Tevin Jenkins had a tough time staying on the field. We think Ben Johnson likes bigger offensive linemen because that's what they had in the Lions. Mekhi Becton is huge, an enormous human being. 6'7", 363 pounds. Now, earlier in his career, he had been a tackle. He was, a highly touted prospect. Didn't work out. So people kind of soured on Mekhi Becton. The Eagles bring him in. They move him inside. He is just a mammoth in there. So stiff in pass pro. And he had one of the biggest challenges of the Super Bowl. That's going against Chris Jones. Chris Jones, huge difference maker for the Chiefs. Throughout this entire great run that they've had, Mekhi Becton essentially neutralized him. I looked it up. He only had 1 QB hit the entire night. Chris Jones almost held out of the stat sheet. 1 QB hit, and Mekhi Becton didn't even give it up. That was when Chris Jones actually switched spots and was going against Landon Dickerson. So Mekhi Becton pretty much stonewalled Chris Jones, who was a huge, huge difference maker, and looked really good at guard, which is where the Bears need help.
Yeah, no, I agree with Alex. I think Becton is an interesting candidate right there. And obviously I watched a lot of the Eagles. You go to Jeff Stoutland University, he is such a good offensive line coach. He will turn your career around. He's going to teach you how to play offensive line. He is such a good developer. And you just think about Jordan Mailata. Never played football. In my opinion, he might be the best tackle this season in all the NFL. This guy was a rugby player. Imagine seeing Jordan Mailata running at you with a rugby stick in his hand. Talk about a huge human being, so athletic. They take him in the 7th round. They turn Mailata into an all-pro. I mean, that's the kind of developer you get from Jeff Stoutland. And I think people are like, why did he get so much better? The 11th pick was a bust. Couldn't play tackle. You move him inside, and you let Stout do his work on him. I love that. And there's another guy I want to mention, and it's not in the premise of what we've stated, but just because he's a guy that played with Ben Johnson last year as well, 6'4", 345 pounds, like you said, Kevin Zeitler. He was a Detroit Lion offensive lineman. And that's just somebody that when I started looking at the available offensive lineman, interior guard, I know he's older. He's 34. That's getting up there. I mean, I'm 38, so I don't know what I'm saying about myself, but in NFL terms, 34 is up there. But he's got some tread on the tires. He's obviously very familiar with the things that Ben Johnson likes to do. So I think Zeitler is also a player to keep an eye on.
Zeitler was a Pro Bowler in 2023. So it's not like he's that far removed from great play. So I love the Zeitler pick also, Clay.
It's interesting. That really broke the rules of our game, Clay.
I'm sorry.
It's not what we were doing today.
I saw it in
That's
Ruthie's
okay.
eyes. I saw it in Ruthie's eyes. If you guys are listening, she was like, "Clay, are you kidding me right now?"
I'm like,
Sorry,
we're gonna
Ruthie.
do that another day. Let's save that. It's
I
a
know.
slow time for us right now. We're gonna have a lot of time to talk about pending free agents, and we can talk about the guys that Ben Johnson knows too. But when you talk about Mekhi Becton, I think what you were talking about with Jeff Stoutland and the way he was able to kind of help develop him, from your experience, Clay, of working with Dan Rochar, what would you say would be the transition for him if he were to be in Chicago? Do you think that's a coach that he would want to continue to be with? Like or would he, want to take a pay cut, stay with the Super Bowl champs, and, or maybe he won't even have to take a pay cut, but it does feel like the Eagles are going to have to make some decisions, right?
He's leaving. The Eagles have Landon Dickerson just brewing on the bench there, getting that Stoutland University education as well. So Howie Roseman is always playing chess. He knows when one guy's up for a big payday, guess what? He's got another one sitting there waiting in the wings. When Jason Kelce retired, guess what? Cam Jurgens stepped in, Pro Bowl center. See, he always has a plan for what he's going to do next. So Mekhi Becton is going to reach free agency. And Mekhi Becton is going after his first contract. So Mekhi Becton is probably going to go to the highest bidder. And I think the Bears will be someone that does stand out to him just because of the direction they're going. You have a chance to build something here. Ben Johnson coming in, Dan Rochar. You have a conversation with that guy, you're going to think, okay, this isn't too far from Jeff Stoutland. I played with Stout. I played with Rochar. I played with both these guys. Both these guys come from that old school lineage. I'm not calling you old guys. I'm just saying old school, but they are old. And they're developers. They get to know the human. They get to know how they think, how they tick, so they can help them the best way possible. And they know not each player is a cookie cutter version. They know each player is different, and he's going to have a chance to help Mekhi Becton, Rochar, improve even more than Stoutland did because they'll have two different sets of eyes. So I think that'll be very appealing to all the free agents.
All right, let's switch to the other side of the matchup from the Super Bowl, and let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Is there a player on their offensive line that you think would be a good fit with the Bears, who will also be a free agent, 𝗦liche Shapiro?
I imagine Clay and I have the same guy again, and we are again looking in the interior, and it is Trey Smith. I know people were down on Trey Smith's game in the Super Bowl because he had the big holding against Jalen Carter. And when Patrick Mahomes got out of the pocket, Jalen Carter was doing some pressures. I thought, though, overall, Trey Smith did a really, really nice job of really kind of mitigating the damage that Jalen Carter can do. This guy is an all-pro, a Pro Bowler, one of the most disruptive defensive tackles in the league. And he was not the story of the game, right? It was Josh Sweat. It was Milton Williams. Jalen Carter could have been that game breaker. I actually think Trey Smith did a really, really nice job. He had a phenomenal season. There's a reason why he was talked about as one of the best, free agent guards before the game. And again, I just saw it differently. I actually thought he played very, very well overall against Jalen Carter. Did he get beat a couple times? Yeah, but of course he's going to get beat a couple times. He's not going to be absolutely perfect against Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter's going to get him sometimes. But overall, I think Trey Smith did a really nice job.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you here, Alex. I thought he did a nice job, but I think that what he is going to take to get him into your organization, and obviously the Bears to get a lot of cap space, is a lot of money. And there were some times, I remember on Twitter, I posted him pulling, and Nolan Smith, who's 230 pounds, edge rusher, collapsing down, and he's got to create a hole for the run game, which is huge. He's got to create, and he gets out leveraged by a guy that's 100 pounds less than him and pushed back into the ball carrier. Nolan Smith makes the play. And then obviously there's another play where he just gets torched by Jalen Carter. There's no shame in that. It's Jalen Carter. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. And you look, the most pass blocking snaps without allowing a sack this season, according to Pro Football Focus, Trey Smith, 732 pass blocking snaps without allowing a sack. What do the Bears need on that offensive line? Somebody who is not going to allow a sack, like they're giving away snacks, not sacks, okay? And Trey Smith is a guy that's very stout in the run game. But then I'm doing some research on Pro Football Focus, and I like, obviously it's not everything, but in my own eyes, I don't think that Trey Smith has a good playoff. Let's see what the other numbers are. And you look at his divisional round grade, a 48.3, quarterback hit and 5 pressures given up. Conference championship, a 49.5 grade, 2 pressures given up, and Super Bowl grade 63. That's actually not bad. A sack, 2 hurries, and a pressure, according to Pro Football Focus. And for some reason, to me, when I was watching him in the playoffs, he didn't look like the same guy he was during the regular season. So that's something I would want to investigate and see, did he get banged up near the end of the year? Was he playing with something? Okay, which guy am I getting here? Because if I'm going to pay somebody a 4-year, $80 million contract to play guard, which has now become a big position, I want to know what I'm getting. So I like Trey Smith. I don't love Trey Smith. But, we'll see what kind of price point he gathers from all these teams.
So you're saying, Clay, if you were to throw the bag at Mekhi Becton or Trey Smith, you're going Mekhi Becton all the way?
Well, I don't think the bag's going to get thrown at Mekhi Becton. I think the bag's going to get thrown at Trey Smith. I think you could probably get 2 good free agents if you go Becton instead of 1 if you go Smith.
Interesting. Okay, those are good thoughts. I like it. Real quick, guys, sticking with the Super Bowl conversation before we move on to something else I want to get to. 𝗗cie𝗄𝗶𝗹 had a great tweet, and we had this discussion off the air on the Big Pro Football Show last night. But I want to talk about this for a second too, because I think it's good. It would be good to get your thoughts, Alex. Clay tweeted this: Ryan Poles traded the 40th overall pick for impending free agent Montez Sweat. The Commanders traded that pick to the Eagles. With the Bears picks, the Eagles drafted Cooper DeJean. Right? With the Bears pick, the Eagles drafted Cooper DeJean.
And the previous year, Jalen Carter. So the Bears essentially drafted Jalen Carter and Cooper DeJean for 2 other teams. No, that's not really true. I would love to get your thoughts on that, Alex, because obviously, like, Montez Sweat didn't have a great season to, I think, what his status and salary commands. But where do you stand on sort of the discussion of should the Bears have drafted Jalen Carter and Cooper DeJean, or are you okay with them going out and getting Montez Sweat? Because I think it's clear it was understood at the time of the Montez Sweat trade that Montez Sweat was not going to hit free agency. He was going to get traded. Yeah. So what do you think of that, Alex? Let me add a little more layer to this premise. And because I think this is the biggest part. This is the only part that, to me, makes it a question, right? Okay. So Sweat probably went to free agency. But if you wait, you keep your 40th pick, and there are some players that hit free agency. Danielle Hunter hits free agency. Jonathan Grenard hit free agency. Both players have 13 sacks and are getting paid a lot less than you paid Montez Sweat without letting him go to free agency. So throw that in there. So instead of Sweat, you have Grenard or Hunter and a 40th pick, which I'm not saying Cooper DeJean, but Zach Frazier's available. Jackson Powers Johnson's available. Yep. You have your pick at 40 plus another free agent that you could have got with that pick.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a key here is that if the Bears had the 40th pick, they weren't going to draft Cooper DeJean. I mean, they have Kyler Gordon, who is a phenomenal nickel slot. So they're not going to draft another guy to play in that role. But as you mentioned, JPJ was there. Bears need a center. Like, defensive tackles were available. Chris Jenkins was out there, and they could use more
Zach Frazier from the Steelers.
Zach Frazier from exactly. Right.
Caliber guy.
So there is that piece. However, the NFL is a what have you done for me lately business. And there's no getting away from that. But I'm old enough to remember when Montez Sweat completely changed the profile of the Bears defense after he was traded and signed. And I never understood this narrative that, he got paid and then he sat back. It's like, he got paid and then had an incredible second half of the season. Like, he got paid in 2023 when he went off. So I think we still need to see before we fully judge this. If Montez Sweat comes back and 2024 was a weird anomaly and has 10 sacks again next year, and he's the force multiplier that he was towards the end of the 2023 season because he absolutely was a force multiplier, I'm all for it. If he keeps turning out more 5-sack seasons, then yeah, big mistake. But I think right now we have half of a season of ridiculous play and a full season that was substandard. Let's see where it goes, because I mean, the plan is for Montez Sweat to be here for some time. So I'm not super down on that trade. But yeah, they could have drafted more players who could have helped. And the Jalen Carter thing, I mean, we said it. Clay and I were on the live draft show as this is happening. This is live. And when they make that trade, we're like, wow, the Eagles are really going to get Jalen Carter, and it's the perfect fit for him. And it's the Eagles who are going to make the Bears look like fools because it's such a perfect fit, right? If Jalen Carter goes anywhere else, it could be a different story. Literally the exact perfect fit for him. And he's showing that, yes, this was actually the perfect fit for me. So the Bears also needed a right tackle, right? If Jalen Carter is playing for the Bears, their pass rush is better. But Caleb, now you're looking for 5 offensive linemen, potentially. Like, you need some guys to protect Caleb Williams. And right now, Darnell Wright is looking like that only cornerstone piece. So it's not like Darnell Wright was a bad pick. So again, like, yes, you can play this hindsight is 2020 narrative. But Cooper DeJean was never going to be a Chicago Bear, in my opinion. And I still think Darnell Wright could be a good pick. And I still think Montez Sweat could still be great if he plays like he did in 2023. And I do. So I spoke with some guys in the locker room about this, about like, what was going on with Montez Sweat and what was going on with all of this. And there was a bit of a discussion like, if we get some new coaches in here, we will be able to play up to our potential again. That was a narrative I heard a lot as that season wrapped up. Was, we know we did not play up to our talent, but there was a feeling that they weren't put in a position to succeed. So I think they are very hopeful that with a change in the leadership, that they can unlock some of that potential, some of that star power again. And now we will see if that bears out, right? Now it's on the players. Okay, you got Dennis Allen. You got these new guys coming in. Now can you actually play up to your standard with new leadership, new coaches, et cetera? Because, again, the players, there was that sentiment like, hey, we weren't necessarily set up to succeed, and that might have played a little role in our downturn here. Also, and when the Bears traded back to get Darnell Wright, they got a 4th-round pick for the next year.
Ruthie's favorite player,
Corey Taylor. Okay, that's all I have to say. Love Troy Taylor. Okay, that was good discussion, and I think staying with defense, this works really well because as this is sort of fresh, there are a lot of guys that are rumored to be on the trade market or have requested trades. So Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby are 3 names that are just kind of getting thrown around the trade rumor mill and in this moment. Of those 3, who do you want on the Bears? What would you give up for them? And is it worth it?
Am I kicking off? That's so tough. Of those 3, I mean, you are talking about 3 of the best defensive players in the NFL. So Myles Garrett, the most recent defensive player of the year. Who was the defensive player of the year this year? How am I forgetting this already? Pat Surtain. Thank you. Because I'm thinking pass rusher. I'm thinking pass rusher.
Ruthie nailed, by the way, a side note. We had a show segment talking about who the coach of the year and the MVP and the offensive players of the year. And I thought I gave her the business in a couple of these arguments, and she ends up winning all of them. And I'm like, well, there you go. So anyways, continue, Alex.
Thanks. But then you look at Micah Parsons, who Swiss Army knife, you put him literally anywhere, and he's going to be a menace, an actual menace. has had double-digit sacks every single year of his career, and just what a fun chess piece for Dennis Allen to use. And then Max Crosby, who is just the motor man, just absolutely embodies, like, you want that guy as a tone setter with the unstoppable motor. He's obviously an unbelievable producer, and Max Crosby and Montez Sweat coming at you from opposite ends. Oof. And Max Crosby also, he's the guy I want teaching Austin Booker. That was the comp, the motor comp, right? The pursuit comp that we heard over and over, the athletic profile comp, Austin Booker. So a great case for all three guys. I think I have to leave Micah Parsons, though. That guy, to me, is the unicorn who you can put anywhere. He's going to get a billion sacks and is a wonderful football player. Can't go wrong either one. I'm trading for every single one of them.
I like, Max Crosby's intriguing to me because I think back when I was on the Saints and we drafted Trey Hendrickson, and Max Crosby has a lot of Trey Hendricks, and Trey Hendricks is a guy that led the NFL in sacks this year. I remember coming in as a rookie. This guy's going hard in walkthrough, and me and this other veteran guy were like, dude, we're showing him something. We come off the ball and bury this kid like 10 yards down the field. He hops up, couldn't be happier about it, and just keeps going hard and walk through. And I thought the kid, and I actually liked the kid, but at the time I'm like, bro, it's walk through, and he's trying to win every rep. But that's the type of mentality you get with a guy like Max Crosby, that effort, that Trey Hendricks, that you're almost like an a-hole, the way you play, you don't care. You're going out there every single rep. You're chasing everything down. You're going hard every rep. So I like that for the Dennis Allen defense. And then you think of other guy, one of the hardest guys I ever had to try to block my entire life. And he's not the most well-known guy. You guys know who he is, but Cam Jordan. I mean, he's a guy that thrived in Dennis Allen defenses. I mean, this guy, you couldn't move him. It's like running into a wall. He doesn't, like, you see this man's body, like in the locker room, this guy is Cam Jordan. This guy was so athletic. He's a freak. And that reminds me of Myles Garrett, just this big, massive, strong human that is going to stay in his gaps in the run game. He can take a gap and a half. Sometimes he can control two gaps. Okay. So this guy, obviously, we know about his pass rushing skills, and he's a guy that I think would be number one. I go Crosby, and then I would go Parsons, and that's no shade at Parsons. I love Parsons. I think Parsons is one of the best. But you give me this list, how am I supposed to decide? It's like the LeBron, Kobe, Jordan debate. One of them has to be three.
Okay, but what are you willing to give up?
That's the problem. That's who I like the most, but I don't think I'm willing to give up 2 first-round picks to get these guys. I think that you're in a position to where you need to build your roster and you need the young players, because you're not in a position where you're going to win the Super Bowl next year, especially not in the NFC North. So I think they would help, but I'm not in the frame of mind to where I want to start giving up draft capital and young players to give me someone that's going to help me win now, because I just don't think they're set up to win Super Bowls right now.
Yeah, I hear you. When you look at the Bears situation and how much work they have to do in the trenches, I understand why you're reluctant to give up what it would take to land these guys. In a vacuum, though, like, I'm giving up 2 firsts, 2 seconds. I'm going on and on.
This is not a vacuum. This is not a vacuum. This is a Chicago Bears team that has a lot of holes.
Here's what I would give up for Micah Parsons, since I identified him as my guy. And I already said this with Myles Garrett a few episodes ago. I actually do think he is worth the number 10 pick in this draft. I think he is worth a first next year, one of the seconds that the Bears have this year, and then maybe another second, Edgar Perez, our producer in the chat, saying he's 25, give up the haul. Because we know the Bears have free agent money to spend. They've got the cap space. So we just got talking about Mekhi Becton. We got done talking about all the other guys that are available in free agency. Go get some of those dudes. They have number 71 or 72. They have another second. They have some powder dry, even if they give up all this stuff, to go get a Micah Parsons, who is a game changer. I mean, he just dictates the entire offensive game plan, right? Like, you need to know where Micah Parsons is, everyone. So I'm sticking with it. Micah Parsons, I'm giving up 10 this year, a first next year, a second this year, and a second next year. And come undone, you're going to change our defense.
I hear you. I think, GMs or people in personnel, I've heard people say like a proven player is worth, giving up resources draft pick who's coming out of college and you don't really know what it's going to look like in your system. I do understand that. I do wonder, and I'm not saying this is what I think, I'm just saying it's for discussion here. Ben Johnson is what we believe going to have a lot of say in personnel moving forward. So comfortable with the Ryan Poles, with working with Ryan Poles. It feels that way, at least. We don't have that confirmed. It's just that's sort of the gist. Ben Johnson was throwing touchdown passes to 𝗵𝗍 𝗟𝗶 last year. He loves offensive linemen. Okay. Like he needs really good offensive linemen in his system for what we saw in Detroit to work here. And, it may look different. There may be, he's going to play to his players' strengths, but I think with the holes they have on the offensive line and really in the interior of the offensive line, that does feel like it's going to be the priority for this team and for this offseason. Just because of who your head coach is. When you get an offensive guy, you're going to go offense early. It just feels that way. So I just wonder, I wonder what the draft will look like. I wonder who could potentially fall for them. And we'll dive into all this. Who could fall to them at 10, that they could get someone, really solid in there right away that's going to help. And then on the defensive side of the ball for the Bears, guys, like, you want to see Austin Booker sort of take a big jump, right, this year. He's no Micah Parsons. I get it. He's not Myles Garrett. He's not Max Crosby, but that's someone that you drafted. You have to develop him. Like that's someone that needs to have a bigger impact in his second season. So I just wonder sort of where the Bears' priorities are in the front office and what they anticipate the scheme to look like. And Dennis Allen, what does he want? What does he need? How is he evaluated? Austin Booker, does he see him as sort of, a star in the making? Is that someone that he can really work with and develop this offseason? So it's fascinating. It's a good discussion. I think it's something that we're going to keep an eye on. And I don't think anyone's going to be mad if they give up a first-round pick to go get Myles Garrett, if you also go get Mekhi Becton, or you make an effort to get Trey Smith, right? Like these are things where it's all connected. And I think you'll feel really good about the direction of the team if it all comes together in free agency and in the draft. And the Bears are in position really to do it all. Like they can. So it just depends on the money, who wants to come here. I think there's a lot of excitement around the league when you talk to their players about what Ben Johnson is going to do with this football team and the direction of it. Like Myles Garrett wants to go to play in a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. Like he could do that in 2 years if he believes in what the Bears are brewing. And does he like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson together? Is that something that he believes in? So I love it. I think it's fun to play these games. And there's obviously a lot of unknown that we're going to keep sort of picking apart until we have the answers. So it'll be fun. That was a great episode, guys. Anything else you want to add?
No, looking forward to going to the defensive side of the ball next week and obviously starting with the Super Bowl. I think there's some really intriguing options on both sides, both teams here that we'll talk about. And like I said, 𝗚liche 𝗵𝗹, this guy's breaking down tape in his sleep. He's doing everything for the draft. He's on it. So looking forward to that.
All right. It's a snow day. Everyone be careful. Stay safe out there. Thanks for listening to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. 𝗚liche 𝗵𝗶𝗹 𝗟𝗶 I'm Ruthie Polinsky. We'll see you soon.